Guys, thank you so much. So the first part of the panel, and what we want to do is maybe one person starts, but I want to make sure we hear from each one of you. All right. So we have about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, or maybe an hour, that we want to talk, and really we want to learn and we want to give the insights. So I'll speak what this is. You guys don't have to look and go bullet by bullet. The point is other people know what we're talking about, right? So the first thing is, how does an SE or a prospective SE get your attention? What are you looking for in a resume, if you are ever looking for a resume? And how do you use data to guide how you're gonna hire SEs? So whoever wants to get started.
I'll go first. I hired last year approximately 20 SEs. That's a lot. That means going over approximately 200 resumes at least.
Wow.
Right? So when I say going over them, I mean very, very briefly, just to be very honest, right? The vast majority of them, just because of the capacity, right? So if I had to write a resume today, it would be very clear, it would be short, and it would be achieved X by Y. That's it. And then details. For example, for an SE, right? Sold the company's biggest deal for $8 million by implementing a process that does this, and then the details, right? Very simple, and not 4 pages of technical work. That's just the resume. There's a lot more, I think, after.
Awesome. Yeah, so I do the same thing. The only thing I would add is, besides kind of like what you achieved, so it also depends to know kind of where the company's stage is. So like, for example, I mentioned I came in and I was the first SE. So what I look for, and I'm currently hiring today, is I'm looking for people that can contribute in building an SE organization. So what's the impact that you're going to bring in order to kind of create your mark and your brand within your organization? So a lot of times I look at beyond your achievements. It's like, what are the creative things that you've done that you've brought to that SE organization, and what can you bring to the organization I'm trying to build so that we can add to what we've currently had today?
For me, I don't really look at a ton of data points. I wasn't in this space. I look for people that are outside of this space personally. My biggest things I think I look for is, like, if you can cross that chasm with me, tell me why you're going to be great at this, how you're going to nerd with the nerdiest people, and how you're going to be the best executive in front of salespeople. Like, explain to me your journey in life, because I think that's way more important to me from a managerial perspective. I could really care less if you were an SE here and you were doing this. Like, if you can show me where your hustle is and show me where you're going to get me and where you're going to build a team and why you want to be under my team in the company I'm at, I'm far more interested in that and data points than anything else. So I think when you go in, really understand that if you are not an SE, or even if you are and you're transitioning to a different technology, how are you going to bring value, and then what type of value are you looking at in me as a leader to bring to you? So those are the 2 things I look for.
Yeah, I'd second most of what Owen said. We hire very few people who are already SEs into our roles. For us, it really comes down to 2 things. The first is the core technical skills. We're a data product. We're looking for people with data experience. I hire very few people that didn't have some sort of quantitative degree, and that spans a lot. I've hired astrophysics majors, right? Not just engineers and math majors, but that demonstrated ability to understand technical concepts. And then really, I think the core skill for an SE, right, is approaching problems holistically, right? And looking at a business problem and being able to break it into all of its constituent parts, the people that are involved that need to be won over, the components of technology that need to be applied, to solve that problem. And when I have, phone screens and conversations with people, I'm really looking for them to really, in a structured way, walk me through that multifaceted approach to solving a problem. Someone who says, hey, yeah, my boss told me to do this, so I did it, and did it well. Not really a great SE, right? Candidate. Someone who says, I identified this problem, and I identified the stakeholders who cared about this problem, and I figured out what solution or set of solutions to put in place to solve this greater business problem than maybe even the one that they came to me, is really someone who I think has the potential to be a good SE.
A lot of good points there. Yeah, the one thing that's really encouraging, just seeing the show of hands here, was how many people are not SEs today. It's something that I'm really passionate about, so I made the jump back in 2013, and just really, really love helping people that are interested in this as a profession. So I think, when you're thinking about putting your resume together for a position as an SE, if you're not an SE currently, it's all about focusing on what problems do you solve in your current position, but also the soft skills side of it, right? So everyone interfaces with customers, whether it's internal or external. So really focus on that and draw that out in some of the bullet points that you're going to add to your resume.
Perfect. People still want to come up and are messaging me, so although we told them it's closing at 6:30, but I want to ask you guys something. So what can SEs do? What can SEs do to get your attention? For example, like, if somebody's applying through Slack or any of your company, Salesforce, like, it's really hard to actually get your resume to you guys, right? Either you're getting a resume through a recruiter or you're getting a resume by an email if somebody knows you. So for people like myself or whoever out there, what can we do to get your attention? And any one of you can take it, or multiple people.
I'll take it real quick and just a quick story. So when I applied to Slack, I knew no one who was there, which is kind of rare, right? I think we talked about this a lot. You really work within your network, right? So we probably all have networks, people we worked with in the past, and it's a good source of finding new jobs. What I did, I just really wanted to work at Slack, so I direct messaged the recruiter directly on LinkedIn, and wrote her this story, basically a love letter about my feelings for Slack in a very kind of creative and genuine way. And ended up getting a position. So, be pretty aggressive with it, leverage your network, but also don't be afraid to do something that maybe feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would say you got a problem, you want a job, figure out a fucking solution engineering. Seriously, I think exactly that is, go get it. Talk about the passion. I think a lot of the problems is we have a lot of people who are like, I want a job and Salesforce is a great place to work. I'm like, yeah, no fucking kidding. Read the news, I get it. But realistically, what about this company is something that makes you want to get up in the morning? Why did you ping me on LinkedIn? Why did you come here? Show up to the front door, see if you can get a meeting with somebody, sit outside there, give your elevator pitch, see if somebody can get you connected. I think those are the things that are really going to differentiate you and other candidates. And especially at a company this size, I know a couple people here are from smaller shops, this is a massive organization. To try to just get the resume churned through and not have a connection is nearly impossible.
So I have a trick that I can teach you guys. Everyone that hires SEs is selling something. So try and be on the buying side. So for example, I can go and I can download the free version of whatever it is that this person is selling, and I'll pop in the Salesforce campaign, and then they'll start calling me and selling me on their software. Right? I literally did that when I joined 2 companies before. So that's amazing, because then you have the SEs and the reps calling you, giving you the pitch, giving you the competitive differences. You learn everything on the company that you want to get hired for, and you start in a much better position.
Thank you, guys. One question that is associated with that is, whose LinkedIn message do you never respond to? I'm not talking about recruiters, I'm talking about a prospective SE. And whose would you respond to?
I can only answer the second.
So who would I respond to? So one thing that I always appreciate when people message me on LinkedIn is that it's not just about what they need. It's also showing interest about me or the company I'm working for. So a lot of times, I'll and it could be something silly as hey, I read this article and it sounded really similar to something that you guys do. Just love to share this with you, right? It shows value that you're care about the company and what I'm doing before you're reaching out for a favor, because everyone's always reaching out for favors, right? Hey, I would love for you to introduce me to Eric in Slack, or I would love to introduce you to someone else, and but it's kind of creating value. So that's who I look for, and then that's also who I don't look for. Is if you're just asking for favors, I'm not going to spend my time on that. There's no value in that from my perspective.
I try to answer actually as many as I can on LinkedIn. I grew up, I don't have connections. My mom's immigrant to this country from El Salvador, so I get when people are trying to break into places. I really do empathize with that, so I try my best. The things I probably don't respond to is asking for favors or asking to get pushed off to some other department. And then on top of that, no point of view. If you just are like asking for things, like, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you bringing to me? Like, why am I going to take my time? My time is valuable. Like, why am I going to respond to you? Unless we have some sort of mutual friendship or anything like that. Like, tell me what you're bringing to my table, and then I'll sit at the table with you. I think that's the biggest thing is people come too empty-handed and don't come with enough value a lot of the times.
That's it. Cool. My colleague Anthony, who works at mParticle, he also was a director before, has hired a lot of people. One thing I admire with him is no one says no to his LinkedIn message. So I want to ask him, can you tell us your tricks, please?
Okay, there we go. I don't think there's any really like tricks to it. I mean, all of them have said something very similar in the background or the undertone of what they've all said, and it's that you have to be genuine. If you have a genuine interest in what somebody else does, and if your interest is genuine in what they are doing, then your message will come off exactly as that, and somebody will spend the time with you to at least talk to you about what you might be asking them about. If you don't do, or if you don't take that little extra step of understanding who they are, what's important to them, then you won't catch their attention. And then it's like you really didn't earn a response. And that's what I always try to do, is you want to earn a response from somebody. You just don't want to get one in response just because you wrote them.
Also, one thing I want to say, don't one and done it. If they don't respond, hit them again, hit them again, hit them again. When they say no, hit them again. And then until they tell you to literally leave, keep hitting them. I think that's the other thing too. It's like tenacity is something that does prevail. I think that really is something that when you're looking for a job, please do that.
That's a great point. Thank you, Anthony. Owen, what I want to do is, so there are sections of these questions, right? So we do have time at the end, but I want to make sure I give everyone here a chance to ask anything about a section. So this section. No, it's all right.
Second mic is.
Yeah, it's fine. I can just keep on hitting. It's a tenacity. So, anyone in the audience here, do you have any question on to the panelist about anything we discussed, about just getting attention, getting in the door? Anyone? Here. If you guys.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Since all of you guys are, well, first of all, thank you for taking the time to do this. Since all of you guys are like in different organizations, like how are your sales engineering different? With like all the business integration are different, right? So I guess my core question is, how is it different for each one of you guys in that sense? Like, well, I guess from that standpoint.
For me, it's better. I don't know how.
So I'll actually answer that question because we do get sales engineers that are from Slack before and Looker and Tableau and wherever, et cetera, et cetera. This goes back to a little bit about the recruiting thing is we look for engineering mindsets. We don't really look for like, do you know Salesforce? Do you know Microsoft Dynamics? Do you know Tableau? It's like, can you figure out problems for people that are coming to you? You have to remember, like, when we come into a place, you have the sales guy being like, I'm gonna ram as much software down their throat, and like, you're coming with me. And like, our thing is to basically say, whoa, take a step back, like, let's actually solve what's going to help them, and then we'll reverse engineer from there. So I think a big part of what we do is not really about our tech. Yes, it is about our tech, but it's more about like the individual's mind and how they think about solving problems more than anything.
Okay, you guys want to take that?
Cool. All right, I think it's good. Perfect. So let's say that we all got in the door. So now what's next? What comes next?
Waving the 4-4.
Interview, right? So that's the next section. From a manager's perspective, and from a perspective of your expectations when somebody is coming in, for an interview, what's your advice on how should SEs prep for that? And then talk to all of us about the day of the interview, right? Some nonverbal cues that you look for, any suggestions or advice you have for our colleagues. Thanks.
Can I get another beer by any chance?
I'll get for you. Which one do you want?
So I think there's been a lot of conversation up to this point about, this is a sales role, right? And something that's really important when you're looking at hire as an SE is having some hustle, right? So that applies to the prep for the interview too, right? You can't kind of walk in the door and just expect us to just care about your technical skills, right? You got to come in and kind of show us why you want this job at this company, right? What you find interesting about the organization. Go chase after, LinkedIn the whole company and see who will talk to you to learn a little bit about the organization that you're trying to apply to. Right? I want to see you come in and really already have all of the answers to the questions that you didn't even know I was going to ask. Like in terms of day of interview, dress code. I think in any company, right, you want to kind of probably match what the style is there, and then maybe take it one level up. We, again, because of what we do, right, as an SE, your job is to be able to walk into any company with any set of people and be able to have a conversation and command the room and ask questions and manage really difficult questions that people are going to ask you. So that poise, right, is super, super important. We come out of a lot of interviews kind of wondering, like the people who were nervous, wondering, oh, is that just interview jitters, right? And we think they actually have the skills that we need, and we think that maybe they know more than they demonstrated in that one interview. At the same time, your job as an SE is to go into a room with a bunch of strangers and talk to them. So that preparedness and that poise is actually an indication of your ability to do the actual job.
So I have a couple of things that I recommend. So for me and the company I work for, so we look a lot around situational awareness, less about the technical skills. So like as an example, one of the questions that I tend to ask is, tell me a time that you had a challenging problem and how did you creatively solve it, right? Not like how you solved it, but what was creative about the way you solved it. Tell me about a time that you had a confrontation with someone. How did you deal with it? How did you work around it? How did you win them over? How did you kind of influence your ideas with that person? When it comes to dress code, so I'm old school. I started my career in financial services, so I recommend come as good as you look, right? So come in a suit. That's what I recommend. At least if you're going to interview in my company, come in a suit with me. But really, what I look for a couple of cues personally. So one is, I don't like it when people say we, because it doesn't show me what you specifically do versus someone else. So I really force people to say, okay, if you did it with a team, what was your role versus the team's role? Because it's really easy to get lost in translation. And the second thing, and maybe this is like a sales tactic, and maybe I'm just a little bit of a seller sometimes, is like, I hate it when someone ends the call and never asks for next steps. Because if you don't ask for the next steps, you don't want it. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm done with this. Let's move on to the next candidate. So that's just my own thing.
Yeah, I think a few things. First of all, just look at it like any other sales call that you'll go to, right? So when you handle yourself throughout the interview, you need to sell yourself, but also come prepared. And a lot of interviews that I have, someone will come and give me the regular spiel of, I'm a trusted advisor, I'm a solution seller, I'm good in front of customers, and I love technology. I'm like, great, these are all great, like, theoretical things to do, but come with examples, do your homework, figure out. I'll give you an example of one excellent interview that I had once. The guy figured out the sales reps that he's going to support within his organization and how he thinks he fits to those. Amazing, right? That's amazing. That no one does that, right? So the more you come prepared, the better. The one thing about dress code for me recently is video interviews also require dress codes. So like, don't show up in an Aladdin t-shirt for a video interview, right? It's just bad practice.
I would say to me, the biggest things for interview is call me out as well. I think the hardest part is that everybody wants a job, but you don't look deep enough into, is this the right job for you? I think I get so many people, I'm so great at this, and I'm awesome at that, and I could do this. Well, tell me what you wouldn't want to do. What happens if I'm a shit boss? You know what I mean? Like, be honest with me. What quals you to having a great career with me? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm only as good as my employees, straight up. I cannot do what I need to do unless my employees are ride or die and I'm ride or die for them. End of story. So when I hear somebody really start to dig into being like, well, this is what really motivates me in this, and how do you align to that, and this is what I would love to achieve, how does Salesforce get this done, or how do you look at this as a leader? Those are the things where I start to say, hey, this person's really thinking about this as a partnership, and I really am into this right now as an interviewee.
That's great. By show of hands, how many of you have been in an interview and not interviewed the person who's trying to interview you? Like, how many of you have not really asked them to sell you on their product? So everyone has basically done it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, and I want to get your guys' opinion is how much of that do you look in a candidate? Is a candidate really interviewing you, asking the right questions, and does that affect your judgment of that candidate?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's what I look for more than anything. Like, we talk to I can tell everybody on this panel that talks to so many people. Oh my God, I can't imagine the amount of humans I talk to. Be remembered. How many times have you been in a room and you don't remember somebody? And how many times do you remember you owning a room and you're remembered? Be remembered. Even if it's for something bad, fuck it. Like, at least be remembered, you know? Like, oh, that was the weird guy. Oh, I kind of liked him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you never know what makes people tick. And I think the hardest part is just trying to tote the line. Like, I don't want to get too political, but I think polarization sometimes can be really good in certain instances. Now, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think trying to tote the line isn't the best way to go, because you become very much the norm, and who the hell wants to hang around with normal people all day? It's kind of boring, you know what I mean? Like, I have to hang out with you every single day, so like, please come with something interesting if I ever talk to you.
Eric?
Yeah, I think one thing, especially I know it happens quite a bit at Slack, is we really look for cultural fit, right? We don't ask technical questions. I mean, my whole interview, I don't know if we've asked one technical question, right? Those are kind of table stakes. So I think when we talk about, doing your research and making sure that you're asking the right questions, make sure you're asking about that side of it, right? Am I going to fit in here? Am I going to follow the company ethos and everything else? That's a big key. And when you see someone who's really passionate about the company at that level, beyond just the product, I mean, the products for the most part speak for themselves, really digging into that cultural aspect, I think is huge. When candidates come through and they really are kind of drinking the Kool-Aid already, that's a big plus.
You had. Yeah, but this is the crappier mic.
First of all, I couldn't agree more about coming and asking questions, especially questions about like the atmosphere and the culture and like the fit and what will you do for me as a manager. However, this is also important. Like, don't come in saying, why do I want to work for your company? This happens. This is not like you tell me why do you think you're any better for your competitors? Because I'm going to ask first. Okay, why do you think I'm better than my competitors? Right? So I think if you definitely want to interview, you want to interview your fit, your cultural fit, but at the same time, you don't want to, you need to come prepared to this conversation.
And just to add, being prepared is like, just go to YouTube and just search the product. Like, it's as easy as that. Like, I had one interview recently where they were like, hey, can you show me the product? I'm like, dude, you could have done on YouTube and just seen like 20 of them. Like, why are you asking me to spend my time on that? So anyways.
I actually have a funny story on that. I had an interview one time, and the person, I was like, oh, what do you know about Salesforce? And they started reading. I'm like, are you reading the Wikipedia page? And they're like, yeah, I am. So, yeah, definitely come prepared. And totally that. Don't be arrogant. It's okay to qual to see if it's the right fit for you, but don't get arrogant and be like, well, sell me on why you should work here. Like, then it just goes deaf for us.
Technique that I've used before is find out for the company if there is another SE, right, on LinkedIn. Connect with them, offer to get them, ask them for coffee. People want to feel important, and usually most people are nice. If you offer their advice and questions, they're not going to say no. You're not asking for a lot. Plus, you ask them that, hey, can you show me the product? Like, what does it do? How do you demo this thing? Be prepared. Depends how bad do you really want the job, right? So that's one piece of advice. Awesome. Panelists, anyone else wants to add anything that you might have missed for this section? Perfect.